Hello, welcome to chapter number 9. In this chapter, you are going to learn fundamental ideas and concepts related to oligopoly. Your textbook covers more than what I will cover in this lecture, and also covers more than what you need to know in this managerial economics class. Therefore, I will cut some material and I will modify some sections. So, let's start. This market structure, oligopoly, is characterized by only a few companies, each of which is large relative to the total industry, normally between 2 and 10, and producing either identical or different goods or services. By the way, the simplest oligopoly possible is called a duopoly, which is composed by only 2 companies. There are 2 important features to consider. First, since there are only a few companies in the industry, the actions of every company has an impact on the others and vice versa. This means that companies must act strategically in order to maximize profits. Second, given the previous point, in this industry, there is a constant tension between competing among themselves and cooperating. I will expand these ideas in the next few slides. The most interesting and common oligopoly that you can find are those in which companies cooperate with each other. When this happens, the group of companies that cooperate is called a cartel. The basic idea to cooperate, rather than to compete, is to coordinate production to reduce the market supply and increase prices. This way, each company can increase the level of profits over what they would make if they were competing against each other. In this slide, you can see that if oligopolies compete, they would produce more and charge a lower price than if they cooperate and behave like a monopolist would, restricting output and increasing price. Notice that QM under monopoly is lower than QC under perfect competition, and that PM is higher under monopoly than PC under competition. This collusive behavior, of course, is motivated by a higher level of profits. Now, it is important to highlight that only a few cartels are able to keep this arrangement, at least for long, for different reasons. One, this collusive agreement implies an incentive to cheat by cartel members. I'm going to explain this later. Second, as long as companies can enter the industry pursuing a slice of the profits in the market, the ability to restrict output is weakened since the new competition implies a higher level of output. And number 3, and perhaps more importantly, most cartels are illegal in the US and therefore are subject to government persecution. Again, I'll explain this in a few slides later. Game theory principles are covered in chapter 10, and you're welcome to read this chapter, although it's not officially assigned. These tools are very useful as a way of analyzing outcomes in strategic situations like oligopolies. So I am going to introduce a basic example using game theory to illustrate this idea. The basic game under game theory, which is a branch of economics, consists of players, strategies, and outcomes summarized in a payoff matrix. So 3 elements: players, strategies, and a payoff matrix. So for this example, assume that the world oil market is dominated by 2 large countries, Saudi Arabia and Russia. Also assume that each country has 2 choices or 2 strategies. A, cooperate by reducing output and acting like a monopolist, and B, cheat and expand production. So here you have 2 players, Saudi Arabia and Russia, 2 strategies: to cooperate or to cheat, And here you have the matrix. The payoff matrix summarizes the strategies and the outcomes. So, if both countries cooperate, they each earn $400, or this could be $400 million, doesn't matter. But if one cheats while the other doesn't, the cheater earns 500 and the non-cheater earns 200. Here is exactly where the incentive to cheat lies. Now, if they both cheat, they each earns $300. The question is, what is the likely outcome of this situation? So you have two players, two strategies, the payoff matrix on the screen, but the key question is, what is likely to happen? Well, in game theory, the so-called dominant strategy is a strategy that has a higher payoff than any other strategy, no matter what the other player does. In other words, the dominant strategy for both Russia and Saudi Arabia is to cheat the agreement, because no matter what the other player does, each player is better off cheating. Therefore, the incentive to cheat is typically a major reason cartels don't last long. But as I said before, this is not the only reason for them not to last very long. Another reason is that high prices in an oligopolistic market structure attract new companies into the industry. When this happens, the market supply increases, pushing the price down, and this of course implies that consumers prefer companies offering the same good or service at lower prices, but also that the profit level declines for all companies in the industry, since there is now more competition. Notice once again that from the perspective of the consumer, this is a very positive outcome, not only because prices are lower, but also because more competition also implies more variety to choose from. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, most cartels are illegal in the US since the Sherman Antitrust Act was passed by Congress in 1890. Antitrust laws give the government the power to regulate or prohibit business practices that may be anti-competitive. Currently, probably one of the most powerful antitrust institutions is the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, which is empowered to prosecute and punish collusive behavior. In summary, cartels may be tough to keep together, but oligopoly can still maintain prices and profits that are higher than competitive companies. As a final note, as I said at the beginning of this chapter, your textbook contains material about the Sweezy, Cournot, Stackelberg, and Bertrand types of oligopoly. These variations are beyond the scope of what I want to cover in this class. You are welcome to read the material, but you will not be tested on this, so you are not responsible for this. Okay, this concludes Chapter 9 lecture. Until next chapter.